When you think of the hardest game on Roblox, what comes to mind? Is it Deep Woken? Doors? Or maybe it could be something else, like Blocktails. But for many players, one game stands out. A game notorious for its brutal and unforgiving difficulty. Juke's Towers of Hell. This isn't just your typical challenging Obby game. It is a game that requires patience, skill, precision, and perseverance, packed with trial and error, grueling challenges, and relentless tests of skill. But before we dive in, where's the light switch again? It's like pitch black in here. There we go. That's better. Alright, so I'm going to give a quick rundown to what JToH is for those unaware. JToH is an Obby game where you have to ascend the tower one stage at a time to get to the top. Each tower has its own difficulty, with green being easy, yellow being medium, orange is hard, red is difficult, dark red is challenging, black is intense, and pink is remorseless. And then the soul crushings, which I'll get onto that later. Now, of course, in most Obbies, whenever you die or fall, you are given checkpoints, so if you die, you just spawn where you left off, right? No, because if you fall or die, you go all the way back to square one. That's just how it works in this game. And to add injury to insult, can I just say, some of these towers take ages to complete. All of this sounds like torment, right? Well, you're not wrong. Without further ado though, it is time to dive into the first tower. First on the list is the Tower of Annoyingly Simple Trials, the introductory tower in Ring 1 of Juke's Towers of Hell. As a tutorial tower, it is designed to guide players through the basics of the game. While it doesn't cover everything you need to know, it serves as a solid starting point for beginners like me. I did fall once while playing this tower. Yes, the literal tutorial tower. A bit embarrassing, I must admit. But I mean, hey, we gotta start somewhere. Despite that, the difficulty isn't bad at all. It is definitely easier than many other towers, which is what you'd expect from a beginner-friendly introduction. Overall, I don't have much else to say about it, besides it being a great way to learn the basics of JToH and get a feel of what the game has to offer. Alright, on to the next tower. The Tower of Anger is similar in difficulty to the Tower of Annoyingly Simple Trials, though just a bit harder. The obstacle course is still fairly easy to navigate and remains beginner-friendly, with a few sections that are slightly more challenging. However, they're short enough that they don't take too much time to get through. One part in particular was a maze. It wasn't too difficult, but I did take quite a bit of damage while getting through it. Despite that, it wasn't anything too major. Overall, the difficulty is moderate and not too easy, but certainly manageable. And on top of that, there's not much else to mention. It's a solid tower with a fair challenge that doesn't feel too overwhelming. Hang on, I still have to talk about soul crushing, so let's get on to that. Alright, so up until now, you might be thinking that the game isn't all that difficult, right? Well, buckle up, because if you think Juke's Towers of Hell is easy, let me introduce you to the soul-crushing difficulties. Now, these aren't required for progression, but they're basically the final challenge in each area. From bottom to top, the difficulties range from insane, extreme, terrifying, and finally, catastrophic. And trust me, these towers are brutally unforgiving. You want to know why? Some of these towers have an incredibly low number of wins. We're talking a very small amount. To even come close to completing them, you need to be a highly skilled JToH player. Alright, so, where was I again? Alright, me sucking at the game. Alright, Tower of Madness. You're probably thinking, oh, he's still cruising through these towers, right? Yeah, so this is the one where I actually hit a wall. I died here like 15 times or so, and you may be wondering what happened. First off, there's this orange section where you have to avoid kill bricks, and let me tell you, it was a nightmare. It felt like I was trapped in a game of how many times can I fail this, but then I realized there was an easier method of completing that segment. The tower finally started making sense and I could actually make progress. Next up is the pink section with the ladder flicks. Oh, that part. I went all the way back to square one so many times trying to nail it. I also died plenty more trying to make it to the end, and there was that moment when I fell at about 90%. Yup, the classic just a little further moment that turned into a huge setback. So, what did I do? I resorted to using YouTube just to figure out how to beat the tower. And with that information, the tower became a cakewalk. But let's be real here. This was the tower that really tested my patience and skills. I was not having a good time for the most of it. I'm sure the pro JToH players are sitting there laughing at my struggle, that's for sure. That said, the final part, super easy. Once I made it there, I practically walked through it. The finish line was a breeze after all of that chaos. And with that, Tower of Madness is finally complete. Next up, Tower of Hecc. And let me tell you, I really did not enjoy this one. It is on the same difficulty level as Tower of Madness, but for me, this one was definitely more challenging. I believe this tower was designed as a bit of a troll tower, at least that's what I think. I might be wrong on that, but hey, it felt like one. This tower was frustrating in the worst way. I fell a lot, like a ridiculous number of times. The platforms you have to jump on are super small, which means you have to be incredibly precise. Honestly, there's not much to say about this one. A lot of the obstacles felt like recycled versions of things we've already seen in previous towers. Though, I will admit, there were the slides which were like pretty cool, I guess. But other than that, not much stood out. Here's one thing that stuck with me though. I was going through the tower like normal, and you know what happened? I was working my way through the blue segment, climbing up, feeling confident in myself, until out of nowhere I slipped back a little and fell into a small gap, sending me all the way back to square one. And that's when it hit me. I was done. I felt so discouraged, and I called it quits right there. So, yeah, you can guess what happened next. I gave up and didn't bother continuing any further. Juke's Towers of Hell is a game all about trial and error. It is not designed to go perfectly. It is a game where failing and feeling discouraged is just part of the experience. But that's what makes it unique. Every fall, every setback, and every climb back up is what defines JToH. I know this video might have felt a little fast-paced, so I apologize if it came across that way. But don't worry, this isn't the end of my journey. There are still more towers and tougher difficulties waiting for me, and I'll be tackling those whenever part 2 comes out. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for sticking with me. As a beginner JToH player, Experiencing this game for the first time has been both challenging and rewarding. Despite all of my failures and struggles, I've genuinely had a great time with it. Even if I might not be saying the same once I reach the harder towers. We'll just have to see how that turns out for me. But with that said, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.